Welcome to today's video where I want to share a client campaign that generated $6 million so far in lifetime revenue. And in this video, I want to share with you some insights and some details on the campaign, like the ad spend and what are we advertising there in terms of how many products and things like that, right? And more importantly though, I want to talk about how should you generally approach that? Is it even desirable to have like one very large campaign instead of many smaller campaigns? And how does this whole thing work? That's what I want to talk about in this video. So stick with me so that I can share some more very interesting details if you run Google Ads for an online store. So very straightforward. That is how the campaign looks like in the ads dashboard, and you can see here the volume shows 4.6 million. That's because the campaign is in British pounds, which roughly translates to $6 million. I think it's 5.8, 5.9. And one thing that you already see is this gigantic ROAS, right? So you could think, well, how the hell could you have a $6 million revenue with a 20x ROAS over here? Because you see, we only spent 220,000 pounds, or I think $280,000 or something on ads. Something along those lines. The thing is, this client here has a very slim profit margin. So yes, 20x is still very, very good, but I must admit that we need like at least 8 to 10 to be profitable in the first place, right? So it's not a typical e-commerce account. You're happy with a 3x, with a 4x. We need a very high ROAS. Yes, this campaign does very, very well, but it's not as absolutely exceptional as you might think when you compare this to like a normal e-commerce store where you never see a 20x ROAS, right? Like most e-com stores never see 20x. We need something very high, but yes, it's still a pretty solid result actually. Then furthermore, you see around 90 million impressions, typical 1% click-through rate, fairly cheap CPC, right? So 35 cents or something, 36, something along those lines, I guess. And it's a smart shopping campaign, as I said. These are just the very general metrics. The campaign contains a few thousand products, so very, very large inventory that we put in this campaign. And let me share you some more insights. The campaign has been around for roughly 3 years now. The thing is, this campaign has been around before I started helping and managing the ads as well. So the campaign has been around before. Of course, since I came in, I made a lot of changes. I optimized, I take care of it while I do all the other things on the account as well. But this campaign is pretty old and of course accumulated a lot of conversion data at this point. It is advertising all the products in the store, as I said, a few thousand. And they are structured in product groups. So you can easily pause or unpause them. You can come in and say, okay, let's skip this product category for now. Let's pause it. Let's don't advertise it anymore. Put another one in. So inside the campaign itself, we segment simply very straightforward by the different brands, right? And by different categories. So we have this double layer segmentation. And it's currently running on a target ROAS bidding strategy of 150%. Regular tweaks are the norm, right? So when you have a large smart shopping campaign, usually results are fairly consistent on a certain level, certainly on that level. But you have weeks or months where ROAS goes higher, volume goes down, and vice versa. And we always want to stick somewhat close on that level. 20x ROAS, 15x ROAS, sometimes it's 23, sometimes it's 13, right? But we want to be in that range. Currently we use a target ROAS of 1750, and I'm constantly tweaking it. Yes, you shouldn't do that too often, but when it's really going in one direction, like when the volume is growing way too much, or the ROAS is growing way too much, but the volume really plummets, then you have to come in and make those specific adjustments there. So the question now is though, should you have many small campaigns or a large campaign like that one, or like both, right? The thing is, you should use as many campaigns as necessary in my opinion, but as few as possible. So, sounds a bit weird, but what I mean with that is campaign optimization takes place especially on the campaign level, or conversion optimization, right? And with more campaigns, of course, you're adding complexity, you're making things more difficult, you're sort of tearing conversions apart, so to speak. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you should have as few campaigns as you humanly can. Of course, you should test things, you should experiment, etc. But don't do that for no reason. So, here are some benefits of having fewer higher volume campaigns. First of all, as I said, conversions accumulate better on the campaign level. So there's better optimization, so to speak, right? Also, it's easier to manage and you have a better overview. And you can look at certain metrics much easier, like the search impression share. If you have one big campaign, you have the search impression share on that campaign. If you have 5 different ones, one might have 30%, 20%, 5, 70. And if they target like somewhat similar products or similar keywords, it's very difficult to come up with one consistent search impression share for that exact keyword or product, right? Now, this doesn't mean, as I said, that you should always minimize your number of campaigns. I have clients where we have 60 campaigns. I have clients where we have 4 campaigns. It really depends on the case. Generally, though, you should rather have fewer campaigns but very optimized and very well structured than just hammering campaigns out and being all over the place. Launch new campaigns when it actually makes sense, right? Don't artificially just segment them. For example, 1 campaign per device. I see all the time people segmenting their search campaigns by tablet, mobile, and desktop. In 95% of the cases, this just doesn't make sense. Yes, if you are super, super large and if you have a very specific reason to do so, you can do it. But I mean, you can specify mobile landing pages, you can use device bid adjustments, you can do all these things that normally you don't need that, right? Same with categories. Sometimes people sort of artificially tear apart their products and advertise them in different categories when they trigger very, very similar search queries. So keep things tight if there is no reason to go broad, right? Especially with shopping, you don't necessarily want to split that much. Yes, you can use the low, medium, high priority campaign structure where you target different sort of priority keywords, the ones that are very profitable, the ones that are not very profitable, use different priority levels, different bids. That makes a lot of sense. But don't create 20 different shopping campaigns for different product categories just for the sake of it. Volume does not automatically go up because you have more campaigns. That is very important. I see that especially with shopping. People say, okay, I spend $100 a day and I cannot spend more. So what should I do? I create another campaign, right? With very similar or the same products. That will not increase your volume. And that's very important. If you target similar keywords or similar products or the same keyword especially, more campaigns obviously will not increase your volume. Sure, if you have one campaign with exact match, the new one, same keywords but broad match, or in case of shopping, the new campaign has way higher bids, you get more volume, but you could have done this in the initial campaign. The exception here, of course, are experiments. It makes sense to run new campaigns that are similar to the old one if you want to test a specific thing. But don't just create new campaigns for the sake of like trying to get more volume in some way, where you keep things very, very similar to the old campaign and you just think that more campaigns will bring in more. So here's how it looks like with this particular client account, right? 7% of our sales roughly come from Performance Max. I expect that to really grow very, very soon because it is growing right now. I just launched a new Performance Max campaign quite recently, a few weeks ago, that has been constantly evolving and getting bigger and bigger. And we have been probably on like 1-2% a few weeks ago. Now we're at 7%. So I expect that to grow quite significantly. Search 17%. We have some brands, we have some very, very strict campaigns that perform very well, like even higher ROAS than the shopping campaign. Then we have some broad search campaigns that also perform quite well, but not everything is working that well on search actually. Then we have other shopping campaigns, standard shopping, and also some smaller smart shopping campaigns. And then we have this one big main smart shopping campaign, which actually makes up almost half the sales volume on this account. Now, this overview, right, and this distribution really depends on the account, of course. I have clients where no campaign gets more than 10% of volume, and I have accounts where, as here, it like one campaign makes 50% almost. I would say on average, most accounts have one high volume, main volume campaign that makes like 20 to 25% of the revenue. And maybe also you, let me know in the comments, do you have like one big fat main volume conversion driver that's like 20, 30, 40% of your revenue, or is it quite distributed? Let me know in the comments, because your strategy on how to optimize those campaigns really depends on how they're sort of made up. Usually what I see is that if you have one of these large campaigns that make up a lot of volume, it's smart shopping, a very, very in-depth search campaign with a lot of ad groups, keywords, etc., or quite lately, more and more Performance Max. So I have a handful of clients where Performance Max is the biggest campaign. I would say in most cases it's like one very big smart shopping campaign or one very big search, sometimes standard shopping, but not that often, right? So this is this distribution here. As I said, most of the time, most clients have 20 to 30% volume campaigns somewhere in their account. Whoops, that was wrong. Let me just skip on the other side again. Yeah, we know that. All right. So if I use a high volume campaign, what should I do, right? If you have that, so what's the approach here? What's the overall strategy? Well, first of all, you have certain optimization routines, especially with a smart shopping campaign, that are quite high level. Because on a smart shopping campaign, we all know no bid adjustments, no negative keywords, no specific bidding on the product level, and so on and so forth. So we cannot do much, but you can regularly exclude underperforming products. Just literally this week, I've been doing an audit for a non-client, so someone who specifically came to me for a specific audit. And I noticed that they have been running shopping campaigns over the past year or so that had product that spent thousands and thousands of dollars with barely any sales, right? So especially when you have a very large high volume campaign, you need to check it for underperforming products and throw them out if necessary. You can put them in separate campaigns like lower budget, lower bids, standard shopping, whatever. But if you have one campaign that is the main conversion driver, especially then, this is one of the regular exercises you have to do, like at least once a week or something, depending on your budget. If you spend like 1,000, 2,000 a day, then you might even want to do it more often than that. But the thing is, Google really sometimes lets you down on that, right? Like you have this big campaign and the overall ROAS on the top level seems quite good, but then you see that some of these products really go to waste and they're not producing any revenue or anything. So that's something that you can do on a regular basis as a routine, right? Modify your target ROAS on an ongoing basis, but not more than like once or twice every 2 weeks. And for this one, you need to get a feeling to some degree, right? It's very difficult to make a flow chart or to give you like a very solid rule when exactly you should increase the target by how much and so on. Because in the real world, there are so many factors, other campaigns, your bids, your store, whether the product is seasonal or not, whether like what your margin looks like. There are so many things that I cannot just say, hey, if your ROAS is X, then increase the target to this. And if the spend, I try that and I, have some frameworks for that I'm trying to polish to do something like this. But it's very much based on, I would say, intuition and experience and gut feeling. When you have optimized like, I guess, thousands of campaigns, then you get a feeling for when to increase and by how much. But the point is, check and monitor your target ROAS. Yes, don't make changes too frequently just for the sake of it. But you have this main control element on smart shopping, and this is the target ROAS goal. So if you see it's going in one direction, if it's growing in volume way too much and the ROAS doesn't sort of come along, you should increase the target. This will reduce your volume, but it will get your campaign more profitable. And on the other hand, if you have crazy profitability, but you just make a handful of sales every day, you should decrease the target and make sure that you get more volume. So it's a constant back and forth that you can work on, that you can regularly tweak in order to get the best results for you, depending on what your business looks like. That's what I just meant. Very important is feed optimization. So there are cases where with a proper optimized feed, you can get 30% more impressions, 40% more impressions, right? As an extreme example, when the feed has been quite bad previously and then it's very good. If it's already super polished, you might just get 5%, 10%, but that's still quite a bit. So with smart shopping specifically, a very, very, very well optimized feed is one of the key things, because Google handles all these things for you. And a great feed, a perfect feed, is the requirement for having a perfect smart shopping campaign, because you can only modify those few things. So you feed Google with the perfect data, so to speak, you feed it with the perfect feed, and then Google tries and aims at getting you the best results. So it's one of the absolute key prerequisites. I recommend to do this once in the beginning for as many products as you can, but if you have thousands, you have to generalize. With tools like Datafeed Watch, you can have building blocks where you put the title together from a bunch of variables. But especially if you have few products, 10, 20, 30, really manually optimize every single product title or every single product in general. Also, even if you have a large volume campaign, and this is maybe the most important point, still run many separate tests with search, with other shopping, even other smart shopping at some point, discovery, and quite recently Performance Max. So the volume on your main volume campaign, like on that one with a couple millions here, that one is like your bread and butter and your backup. You know that it generates sales, it's fine, it's cool, and even if you don't have any other campaigns, this one will be performing well and generate volume for you, and it's a great position to be in. But it's quite dangerous because even those large volume campaigns, when they have been running for ages, sometimes they just drop out of nowhere. So I've seen cases firsthand where a campaign was doing well for a year, and then at some point, like week after week after week, it was going worse until like 1 month after the decline, it was performing very bad. So don't completely rely on those. Yes, they are the cornerstone of your account and they make perfect sense to keep and to monitor and to use, but regularly run new tests, especially those that are not affected by smart shopping, like search or standard shopping, right? Where, well, standard shopping is affected by smart shopping in a way, but those are perfect additions to the main one, because as I said, in this particular account, other campaigns are contributing to the ROAS even more than that one. So you can really increase the overall account ROAS and also the volume with some secondary campaigns where you target different things, where you test new experiments, where you test new assumptions. And who knows, sometimes there are new campaigns that actually become bigger and bigger and bigger, and you realize, wait a second, they are actually even more profitable than my original campaign, but they are targeting similar products or similar keywords in case of search. And at some point, they may replace the original one simply because they get similar volume but higher ROAS. So run tests on different products, categories, campaign types, etc. at the same time. You never know which one of those will get very, very powerful. And last but not least, don't make a huge bet with your main volume campaign. So the main volume campaign should be really adjusted carefully. With that particular one here, the $6 million campaign, as I said, I do all these things that you can see here on a regular basis, but it doesn't mean that I'm sort of going into the account every day and I'm changing the ROAS and I'm changing products and so on and so forth. Because once a campaign hits that level, once it's on that level, you need to be a bit more careful and put most of your attention to new campaigns, new tests, analytics, optimization, maybe even looking at the store, optimizing your conversion rate on the store side before really falling into this actionism of making changes to this big campaign all the time. More carefully, once a week, once every 2 weeks, and making sure that all these things are in place. That's how you maintain one of those high volume campaigns. That's how you sort of deal with them inside an account. This video is mostly, or was mostly, on sort of how this fits in. Does it make sense? How should you treat it? And so on and so forth. But I hope this has been valuable to you so far. It's really important to have some of these volume campaigns because they will accumulate all these conversions in one campaign, which really helps with optimization. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you have it. Let me know in the comments if you use large volume campaigns or if it's very, very evenly distributed. Leave a like if you find this video helpful, and also subscribe if you want to see more Google Ads and e-commerce content. Check the link in the description if you want to work with me or get a free checklist for Google Ads. And with this being said, I hope you enjoyed this video and I look forward to see you in the next one again. So take care and bye-bye.